Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Wilton Report. My name is Josh Wilton, and today I am talking about the 9 things buyers need to know before they move to Princeton. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Wilton Report. My name is Josh Wilton. I'm your host, and today we're talking about things buyers need to know before we move to Princeton. If you have not subscribed to this podcast, please do so. Today's going to be a great episode. Stay tuned. If you ever have any questions, you can always shoot me a text or a call, 609-773-8054. We'll always get right back to you. And again, let's get to it. So the first thing is I've been doing this over 20 years. So I have what we call scar tissue. And realtors talk about comps. I'm going to bring some comps. What is that? How do you bring comps and look at a piece of paper and try to figure out the market? So, I think in other suburban markets, you can probably get away with that. Princeton, which is sort of always a seller's market, especially in the more affordable price points, you can't do that. You're going to lose. You will not know the market. You will not know how to buy. So, Princeton's a price per square foot market. It's a multiple assessment market. It's a lot-driven market. And then you have to kind of nail that down into the neighborhood, the street, the style of the house, the lot size, and the direction it faces. Because culturally, certain directions are important. The number of your house is important. Certain cultures don't like certain numbers, and they won't buy it. So all these little nuances matter, local knowledge matters. So you can have 2 homes that are the exact same size and have a huge price difference. And you're kind of looking from the outside in going, gee, I wonder why. So every single house that we do, and I have them whoops, I just dropped it by. We do a crazy analysis on every single house. And yes, we print it on this big paper because it's not a comps market. It's a data-driven market, and there's 9 things you have to know. Can you build an ADU? So you really have to get granular as a buyer if you're looking to buy in Princeton. And if you're a seller, obviously you want to get granular as to your product. What's your product? Don't think you know. You got to know the math. So I always say know the math, know the market. So the lot quality, right? Meaning, is it conforming versus non-conforming? How big is the dirt? How big is the dirt in what neighborhood? What direction does the dirt face? The frontage, the depth. Can you build an ADU? Because ADUs are only allowed to have one driveway. Can you develop a cottage court? If you don't know what a cottage court is and you're a seller and thinking about selling your house and you already have an agent, you have the wrong agent, right? Because this is a big part of what's coming to the market in 2026. So does the lot have water on it? Is there a pitch and a slope to the lot? So all of these things matter, right? To a buyer. If you don't know this before you get into the bidding part of the process, you're not going to have as competitive a bid as somebody who does. So you really have to take the time to know the math, know the market. And lot quality is a massive, massive, massive part of establishing value in Princeton. Schools. So schools are really, really important in Princeton. So I did an episode on the schools. I will link it in the notes on YouTube. Princeton has the #1 charter school in the state of New Jersey. The issue there is it's by lottery. It's not like you move to Princeton, your kids are going to the charter, right? We would have a free-for-all of people moving here. However, Littlebrook, Riverside, Community Park, Johnson Park, each has a nuance. And what's interesting, the Community Park neighborhood, for the most part, is the most walkable neighborhood in Princeton. So then what you have there are baby boomers that want to walk everywhere. They're buying real estate in town. We just sold a couple's house in Montgomery, about 1.4, and they bought a house 2-3 houses from Nassau Street because they want to be able to walk everywhere. So, and then Riverside has walkability, Littlebrook has walkability. The shopping center, I think, is still an undervalued influence in Princeton real estate. So, people with kids prioritize walkability to the school. They prioritize walkability to town. So if you can check both boxes, right, that's going to be a pretty hot product. So, schools influence pricing, and then you have to know the difference between the 4 elementary schools, where they're ranked, Again, you can check out that other episode. Inventory is tight, man. So I just shot an episode. I'll link to it. Like when you look at the lack of single family home inventory under $1 million in Princeton. Wow. That's all I have to say. It's really low. I'll put a link on that as well. The highest growth pattern in Princeton in terms of volume of number of homes sold is in the 2 million price point. But again, 2 million in Littlebrook or Riverside walk to town on a sidewalk to the university, which is a job center, is a very different gambit than a $2 million plus house on Cherry Hill Road. Right? So, you know, you have to realize that inventory is down, right? And you're going to see price reductions coming in the market because the stuff that's out there is overpriced in the market. Now you're going to think, well, my gosh, the market's slowing down. If a house is, you know, in a neighborhood where homes are selling at $500 a square foot and you list it at $700 a square foot, you're not going to sell that house. I don't care. So again, when you look at inventory, right, there is a predictable seasonal pattern, usually been way off since COVID. Spring market in Princeton starts January 15th. Last year, not much of one. Matter of fact, it was Deadsville. Came late in the year. There was no summer lull last year, but that is normal. September, right, usually like we call it the September refresh, or I do, which will go right through Thanksgiving. We are really busy right now. And in December, you know, in the first 15 days of January tend to be a little bit light because kids are off from school. It's the holidays, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's Hanukkah, it's all the things, you know? So that's the normal ebb and the flow of inventory. However, you have to be tied into a local broker who can tell you, like, look, things are not coming on. So if you want something now, maybe you have to compromise. Like, it depends. So renovation levels vary widely. So this is where it's sort of like people get drawn into the wrong things, right? People will buy a house because it's freshly painted, staging, which is important, crazy important, and new countertops versus looking at the fundamentals of the house, right? They want to know, can they move in? They'll deal with the rest of it later, which is fine. And like, that's not a horrible strategy, but there are things you want to take into consideration if you have a limited budget. You have to put a new roof on. It's not cheap. You need a new furnace, not cheap. You know, windows are $850 per window, $700 per window, right? Does it have knob and tube? Does it have aluminum, right? Most houses in Princeton don't. So all these different things. Now, walkability, holy cow. So the first block of Nassau Street, and I'm sitting on the corner of Nassau Street and Harrison Street. You can always come in the office and say hi. The first block of Nassau is like from Wiggins to Nassau Street, okay? Or conversely, in Riverside, Harrison Street to the university. Like, that's what I consider the first block. So like Markham, Murray, those streets. But the tree streets, you know, Maple, Pine, Van Devender, Moore, like these streets are premium because I can leave my house, I can make a left basically and head to Nassau Street, or right, depending what side of the street I'm on. And I can be at Small World Coffee in 4 or 5 minutes. I can walk to the library, which in Princeton is beautiful. I can walk to campus, which is the job center. I see my customers walking all day, all the faculty that buy in that market segment. And then on the weekends, if, right, I have kids and I'm going out, or even if I don't have kids, people want to be able to walk. Like if I'm coming from New York City, walkability is such a great thing, or the access to be able to walk. People are willing to pay a premium in Princeton for that feature. So walkability is a massive premium in Princeton. As a buyer, you definitely want to know that, right? Especially the proximity to campus, all the other things that factor into it. Older homes are normal, though I think getting less so. And that's a good thing. So the one thing I'll tell you as a buyer that you need to know is that Princeton has 21, maybe 22 historic districts. So you got to be careful. You don't want to overspend an historic district because then you're subject to the town telling you what to do with your house, which is not good, right? So there are a lot of historic homes, there are older homes, there's modern homes, and they each sell and have their own pricing pattern, which is why, again, You want to have a detailed analysis of every single house. Like, you have to know. So as a buyer, older homes are the norm. Maybe one has an addition, maybe one doesn't. Maybe one could have an addition. Maybe you could build out on one. So there's all these different factors that play into it. You're buying in Princeton the opportunity that the lot provides is the best way I would describe it to you if you're buying an older home. If it's not painted and you don't want to paint, that's okay. But if it's the house that you want and you're not going to buy it because it needs a paint job, believe me when I tell you, if it's under 1.85 and in the right neighborhood, someone's buying it. And they're doing the work because they just sold their house in Hopewell or whatever suburb, and they're a boomer and they want that sidewalk to town. So, you have to understand not only the house, but who your competition is. Not this past year, but the year before, I think I sold like 20 houses just on what I call the first block of Nassau Street. Some off market, some on market. We just sold 2 off market on Maple, right? Professors and boomers. That's it. Walk to work, sold my house in the burbs. I want to walk. I work from home a couple of days a week. I'll work at Tiger Labs. I'll commute on the train. I can walk to the train. I'm willing to pay a premium because I've been driving in the minivan for 15 years and I don't want to do that anymore. So older homes are the norm, locations are the norm. So you're going to be, as a buyer, unless it's grossly overpriced, which is fine, you're going to be in a competitive situation in Princeton for the most part, right? So you need to have a strategy. You need to know the market. You need to have this all done before you start looking. So I brought this downstairs. This is our buyer book. Every buyer we meet with gets this. And, you can see there's a lot of data points in it, and there's a process map in it. There's the factors that impact pricing. It's right there. There's the absorption rate. There's all the stuff you need to know. We cover that with you as a buyer. How do you buy a house unless you know that? We actually had a buyer consultation with a buyer on Zoom who was working with another agent for a year, got rid of them, contacted us, I think as a result of this podcast, if I'm not mistaken. And when I said, when you made the offers, did you have a strategy? No, not really. Did you use an escalation clause? What's that? And I'm like, oh my God, like horrible. Maybe they could have gotten the right house had they had the right broker, myself. So, long-term value in Princeton is really pretty good. So you don't want to buy the biggest house on the worst street. So don't buy a McMansion on Route 206. Just don't. Why? I hopefully don't have to explain that, because if the market shifts a little bit, you're not selling it. You're just not selling it. Don't buy the nicest house on the worst block. Buy the worst house on the best block. That's just basic rules. So, the house isn't big enough, live in it for 3 years, put on the addition. It's instant equity. So you do have 27,000 employees, courtesy of the university. You have a high demand school district. You have walkability. You have culture. You have McCarter Theater. And it's very limited buildable land. ADUs are the new phenomenon, that's coming in Princeton. So Princeton does hold its value exceptionally well, especially compared to, I think, the rest of the local market. So that's it. So if you're thinking of buying in Princeton, I don't care if it's 3 days, 30 days, 3 months, or 3 years, shoot me a text. Let's schedule a time to review your strategy to buy. Like, what's important to you? When do you want to buy? We'll show you what's important to do when you want to buy. We'll show you the process, but ultimately it's up to you. So again, if you're looking to buy or sell, 609-773-8054, just shoot me a text and we'll connect and schedule a time to meet. Again, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this broadcast. And thank you again for tuning into this latest edition of the Wilton Report. See you guys next time.